I want you to know that Tom DeWeese is a one-man army, constantly scrutinizing and assembling the pieces of a massive puzzle, putting together those pieces at all levels to reveal how they relate in this fast-moving, fast-changing world that we live in. These interests must be in the genes, as Tom grew up in a family of activists in Ohio. His 90-year-old mother remains very much active and involved in community affairs and is knowledgeable of world affairs. So it's only natural that Tom should carry on with those interests and concerns he grew up with. He is one of the nation's leading advocates of individual liberty, free enterprise, private property rights, personal privacy, back to basics education, and American sovereignty and independence. And lately, he's been facing the need for preservation of our states' rights and sovereignty within our own nation. We shouldn't have to do that. In Ohio, since the age of 23, he ran for the state legislature. He served as editor of 2 newspapers and has owned several businesses. In 1989, Tom led the only privately funded election observation team in the Panamanian elections. In 2006, he was invited to Cambridge University in England to debate the issue of the United Nations before the Cambridge Union, a 200-year-old debating society. Tom serves as the founder and president of the American Policy Center and is editor of the DeWesse report, and he invites you to stop by his table where he has quite a nice assortment of samples of his publication, the more recent ones. And you're welcome to help yourself to as many copies of it as you would like. They're very, very informative and very interesting. He also heads up an internet news site called freedom21.com and has planned and conducted several well-attended conferences drawing numerous nationally known speakers and participants. And he's working on the next one, which I think is in July. Is that right? August. Okay. As a businessman, grassroots activist, writer, and publisher, Tom always advocates a firm belief in man's need to keep moving forward while protecting our constitutionality and guaranteed rights. He believes in being where the action is. And where Tom is, there's always action. No matter how dire the problems, he's determined, though, to see the light at the end of the tunnel and to attack all problems with optimism. This is a fine way to end this evening of speakers, because he identifies the problems, but he always will retain hope and is determined to attack it aggressively. And so, with that, folks, hang on to your seats. I'm delighted to present Tom DeWeese.
Clarice has taken me around on a whirlwind tour all day today. We had breakfast this morning, and we met with people here today. And I began to worry that what I prepared to say to you may be too elementary, because you guys are facing these things. You know so much that I'm worried that I might bore you to death by you saying I know all that. But I also think that it's very important that people be able to connect the dots and understand all the things that we're facing. And so if you already know it, please bear with me, but understand as we go through it that a lot of things maybe you don't know, and maybe they will connect it. But you know, I've come a long way to get here, and I have such a short time to be with you. So let's just get everything on the table right away, shall we? I believe that the American people, in their every action, are being ruled, regulated, restricted, licensed, registered, directed, checked, inspected, measured, numbered, counted, rated, stamped, censured, and authorized, admonished, refused, prevented, drilled, indoctrinated, monopolized, extorted, robbed, hoaxed, fined, harassed, disarmed, fleeced, exploited, assessed, and taxed to the point of suffocation and desperation. America is drowning in a sea of rules and regulations, particularly under the guise of saving the environment. We all know something is very wrong, and we are trying to fix it. Many in America attempt to fight against one issue or another as they try to understand what is happening to their country. But most fail to see the whole picture and are being crushed under a well-organized divide and conquer tactic that keeps them reeling from crisis to crisis. So tonight I'm going to try to give you at least a peek at the all-encompassing, gut-wrenching national transformation that we face, and hopefully help lift the veil of confusion. To put things in perspective, here are some questions every American should ask their elected officials, especially those supporting climate change legislation. Question: if it is proven that climate change is not man-made, but natural, will you be relieved and excited to know that man is off the hook? We've been terrorized into accepting that human society was on the brink of extinction because of man-made global warming. We've been warned that unless we take drastic action to reverse it, then islands will disappear, whole cities will be destroyed, and polar bears will drown. So if it's not true, would you now remove all of the draconian regulations passed during the global warming hysteria? Will you help to restore our republic with common sense and sound economics? The answers to these questions should be very illuminating as to the true agenda that they seek to impose. If they are supporting climate change legislation because of a genuine concern for the environment, then they should now be greatly relieved to know that true science is showing more and more evidence that there is no man-made global warming, and in fact a natural cooling period has begun. Now, I've just returned from one of the most important climate change conferences ever held, sponsored by the Heartland Institute in Chicago. More than 700 scientists from all over the world came together to testify that man-made global warming does not exist. In their own words, these scientists tell us that a short warming period in the 1990s was from natural causes. Harvard scholar and climate scientist Willie Soon said it best in a recent article he titled, "It's the Sun, Stupid." Dr. Mark Campbell, professor of chemistry at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, recently wrote, quote, "The sky is not burning, and to claim that it is amounts to journalistic malpractice." Said U.S. government atmospheric scientist Stanley B. Goldenberg, "It is a blatant lie put forth in the media that makes it seem that only a fringe of scientists who don't buy into anthropogenic global warming." And in the past year, more than 650 scientists from around the world have now expressed their doubts. That's 12 times the number of UN IPP or IPCC global warming alarmists. 12 times. Top that with the fact that more than 31,000 American scientists have signed a petition saying there is no convincing scientific evidence that human release of carbon dioxide, methane, or other greenhouse gases is causing disruption of the Earth's climate. And of course, most of the hysteria has been fueled by Al Gore's Oscar-winning, Nobel Prize-winning film, An Inconvenient Truth, which almost every American school student has had to watch endlessly in their classrooms.